Someone needs to tell bitchy gay people that they're not funny just because they're bitchy and gay.
If you want to contribute to me getting a new camera.
Bottom tier is 550 AU. So what, about 3 quid? So he's probably getting at least 2 grand. Can you imagine asking for money from people for stuff that got broken? When you make so much money just from Patreon alone?
I've seen nostalgia critic reviews that get to the point quicker than this.
You know when you make like a Saints Row character and it starts off like bald with like generic features? This guy doesn't understand poverty whatsoever and he's a massive fucking leftist. Oh, well, I don't think people should be poor. But you don't understand how people treat you when you're on benefits because you don't actually understand the poor experience.
This house would be $12 million in the cheapest part of Toronto.
Does this guy know anyone that's above the age of about 40? Like, yeah, they probably could afford this on like a car factory wage and a teaching assistant wage because houses used to cost an awful lot less, caelen, than they do now.
Why am I dancing with that trans person?
I'm going to watch this video. I'm a bit dreading this because I watched caelen, Conrad and someone else in this podcast talking about Magdalene Burns. And to be honest, I thought both of their conduct was pretty disgusting. Like, this is someone who's died, ultimately. You don't have to like someone who's died. You'd have to agree with what they were saying and stuff and putting it out into the world. But I think there's things that don't need to be... There's lines that don't need crossing, you know what I mean? So yeah, I'm really not a fan of this person myself. But hey, maybe they have something to say about J.K. Rowling that's gonna resonate, who knows? Or maybe I'm just gonna criticize this endlessly. What kind of music am I into? I like lots of things. I like emo, I like indie, I like some electronic music. The kind of stuff I make is kind of ambient indie. With like the odd kind of loud bit here and there. Gay Lex Luthor. It is kind of like that, yeah. But yeah, I don't know, caelen, Conrad. Let's see what we're saying, I guess. Why do they have the same backgrounds always? I don't know, but it's interesting how much stuff these people have for being like anti-capitalists. It feels like consumerism and anti-capitalism are strange bedfellows, but very common bedfellows. So.
J.K. Rowling once said she was as poor as it's possible to be in modern Britain without being homeless. And she was lying through her heavily insured teeth. Well, she probably wasn't, like, lying, actually. Likely she's just never been poor enough to know how poor it's possible to get. But she seems confident saying it anyway.
Without being homeless. I mean, I've experienced that as well. Jesus. Falling in reverse. That's fair enough. I'm not into falling in reverse myself.
Classic Joanne. Joanne, no middle name Rowling, clearly enjoys the mythos that's been accredited to her, despite...
Also, ContraPoints is a lot to answer for the patronizing Joanne every 10 seconds.
Her legend amongst her fans being largely exaggerated or sometimes straight up lies. Ask around about her, and someone will eventually tell you that she's a brave activist who was once a homeless, destitute mother of 3, turned down by every publisher in the world before rags to riching her way to becoming the world's first white feminist to have a...
I mean, I'm not really seeing quite what you're saying. You're kind of... Is it right to say that J.K. Rowling's exaggerating about her story? And then exaggerate about what other people talk about her with? She wasn't wealthy before she became famous. I'm not aware that she was either. He's not technically saying she was wealthy, but I don't know, man. You seem like you're calling someone out for exaggerating whilst being very exaggeratory yourself, so it feels a bit hypocritical so far.
A house with a moat. And while she didn't create this narrative all on her own, she is rarely...
I mean, it's a narrative you're making up. The tweets were showing. Went from being homeless single mother. Like, was she homeless? I don't know. According to AI, she was never officially homeless. But yeah, some people are getting stuff wrong, but like, is that the end of the world? Like, this person got this wrong. It's not quite the same as like what he's saying here, though, is it? Was a single mother, homeless. Like, I don't know, man. It's an exaggeration, sure, and it's people speaking on her behalf and getting it wrong. But has J.K. Rowling herself ever said she's homeless? People get it wrong. People read things wrong. Like, I don't know, man. Was a single mother, homeless. I mean, the single mother part is true.
Ask around about her, and someone will eventually tell you that she's a brave activist who was once a homeless...
Heavily insured dental implies rich. Yeah, it does. I guess we'll see what evidence this person has. Like her writing Harry Potter in a cafe, homeless single mom. Yeah, it sounds like some people have got the wrong end of the stick. This isn't quite what this guy's describing, though.
Homeless, destitute mother of 3, turned down by every publisher in the world before rags to riching her way to becoming the world's first white feminist to have a house with a moat. And while she didn't create this narrative all on her own, she is rarely seen making any moves to amend the public narrative about her, unless it's something from her recent or distant past which makes her look horrible, which, yes, I found. Or distant past which makes her...
Yeah, the Holocaust denial stuff was bunk, by the way. It was something like Nazis weren't necessarily directly targeting trans people. And that's probably true. Like the Hirschfeld books that got burned from the Hirschfeld Institute. Hirschfeld was Jewish. Who were the Nazis first and foremost against? The Jews. So like, if they see things like gender ideology or whatever version that took in Weimar Germany or whatever, if they look at that and see like Jewishness and, oh, this is the kind of thing Jews are about, we don't like this, then that means that trans people are kind of being targeted indirectly and not directly. You know what I mean? And that with the gay people, it's the same story. Like generally when trans people were persecuted, it's because they were gay or perceived to be gay. So the Holocaust denial stuff is bunk. This is not a good start already.
Look horrible, which, yes, I found. And it's vital to discuss this because she has weaponized her tragic backstory in order to soften the obscene amount of privilege she is seen to have and garner sympathy for herself despite all the harm she's
trying to seem less privileged. Like, isn't that what all of y'all do?
She's done and gleefully continues to do.
Could we make that accusation of someone like Philosophy Tube, where you can't see how much money they make on Patreon? And they used to go around talking about like rent strike in 2020 when they were probably making more money than their own landlord? Because that sounds to me like that kind of thing as well. But I bet this person had nothing to say about any of that.
And that's not even including the likelihood that some of the coins in her vault are hers because of child labor and human trafficking. We'll get to that, but let's go back a second. Last year, I put out a video on Harry Potter, a popular book series for children and millennials who are also children. I made the video after being harangued by fans of the series and its, let's say, controversial author, who were constantly making some surprisingly outrageous claims about Harry Potter, J.K. Rowling, and her legacy as an underdog. A woman...
What, fans going a bit too far in their support of something? I've never heard of that before, wow.
Who, against all odds, rose above it all to redefine what success looks like, all on her own. She's the only real self-made billionaire. She wrote the word...
books. It was this dude's generation that gave her all the money. Yeah, quite possibly. I'd be willing to bet this person was like a Potterhead or whatever. What's funny is like, I never cared for Harry Potter. Honestly, I like J.K. Rowling more now than when she was writing Harry Potter myself.
She cashed the checks. She changed the world. Before her, the youth of the earth, illiterate slobs. Here, I'll let the public speak for themselves.
Nobody does world building like Ms. Rowling. There's a reason why before the series came out, children never read outside of school.
Like, this sounds like crazy fan shit. Like, I agree, this kind of stuff is cooked. Before the series came out, children never read outside school. That's obviously not true. But this is like crazy fan shit. You're gonna get crazy fans of anything that's this big. Like, you know what I mean? People will treat like their favorite musician or favorite author or favorite actor or something like they're godlike, and everything they do is like touched by God or something. Like, I don't know what point we're going to be making, but like this is not really anything. This is just crazy fans saying crazy shit.
I think that was just you. When I was a kid, it was either read a book or stick a hoop, and if I did the latter, I might have accidentally touched some grass. I'm severely allergic to anything outside.
J.K. Rowling is arguably the most successful author in the history of publishing, with the possible exception of God.
Yeah, you see what I literally, this is exactly what I'm talking about.
Not long before Rowling was published.
I'm 33. I loved her books growing up, honestly. That's fair enough. Listen, it wasn't my thing. I don't personally shame people for liking Harry Potter. I'm not going to shame someone if they're an actor and they take a role in a Harry Potter thing just because J.K. Rowling is supposedly anti-trans. Once again, I don't think bigot shaming works. So that wouldn't be something I did even if I had a problem with J.K. Rowling.
women authors were unheard of.
Mary Shelley and Agatha Christie just shit themselves in their shared lesbian mausoleum.
Rowling's real importance lies in the fact that she was the first writer to present a world in which class and wealth mattered. Some characters were poor, some were rich, and being poor was a hardship, not just a cheery, sentimental thing in the scenery.
And now whoever wrote that story about that porridge-sucking orphan is rolling in his tiny little grave. He wasn't short, and people were just smaller back then. Like gnomes. But after seeing hundreds of comments like these, I said, screw it.
Do you mean Charles Dickens? You couldn't remember Charles Dickens? Okay.
But let's do a video that illustrates how her world building was just lazy.
Are we supposed to believe those quotations are not from ChatGPT? Well, I mean, even if we believe that they're real, which I've no reason not to think they are, it's like stan stuff, you know what I mean? It's like crazy fans over-egging the pudding, acting like J.K. Rowling's Harry Potter is the next coming of the Bible or something. People are just like that. The way these gay guys talk about lesbians is just so strange. Yeah, I agree. Jesus Christ. It gets quite disturbing sometimes.
Recycled fantasy that shows that there were plenty of authors who did the genre more masterfully. That no, despite what Joanne implies now, she did not invent owls. Hang on. Genre more masterfully.
This is so annoying. I have to check every single thing they flash up. Because what I realized when watching ContraPoints talk about this kind of thing, she'll flash things up. When you actually look, when you actually scrutinize, like what they're showing as evidence, sometimes it's very lacking. And it feels more like they're banking on you not actually checking.
That no, despite what Joanne implies now, she did not.
Deeply disappointed, Jessie Gender doesn't realize Pure Think is incompatible with owning anything connected to me in any form. The truly righteous wouldn't just burn their books and movies, but the local library, anything with an owl on it, and their pet dogs. What's that got to do with her thinking she? Oh, I don't even care. This Jessie Gender tweet is retarded. I don't know what criticism you're making here.
Invent owls. Eventually, it just actually becomes less time consuming for me to just make a video so I have a link to reply with than to get into an argument with 500 adult human dirtbags named Groper 1488 or whatsoever you have you. But to this day, that video continues to get replies like these.
Biased. This whole video is filled with lies.
Yeah, the problem is, it probably is filled with lies. My experience of Caelen Conrad's content is it's not the most honest thing in the world. Sorry about it.
I stopped watching at 6 seconds because I couldn't stand your annoying put-on voice, JK.
Also, I think this probably is fake. And by the way, people say stuff like this to me from the other side. Like, this isn't unique to like J.K. Rowling fans, even if this is true. And also, by the way, I don't know how many J.K. Rowling fans have got like 1488 in their username, but sure.
J.K. Rowling is a low-class hero. She turned books she wrote on napkins while she was literally homeless into $1 billion and then donated most of it to charities. Just shame on you for hating a generous woman's success.
Can I say I love low-class hero? I'm assuming they meant to say like lower class, but...
And by the way, this is the kind of thing, I think I was talking about it yesterday. It's funny watching like gay guys be like shady to each other, like bantering, like on each other and stuff like that. When they start bringing it out to other things, to me, they often just come across like a bit of a dick. It's something that works in some contexts and not others. And it, for me at least, this does not work for me. Like, he just seems kind of bitchy and kind of judgmental, which is something I feel often when I watch like queer content creators. Very judgmental.
I'm gonna make a shirt that says that. Actually, wait, I can do that now.
And also this guy spent like over an hour making fun of the death of Magdalene Burns. So I really actually have no hang-ups of being mean about him at all. Like, this kind of person can dish it out so they can fucking take it as far as I'm concerned.
This will only take a second. Play the comments.
Misogyny from the LGBTQIAAPXYZ plus crowd. A homeless mother of 3 wrote the most loved children's series of all time, and you're mad about it because she has different opinions to you, so you attack her work, which is the most loved children's series of all time. Heard of it?
JK is transphobic? Why is she afraid of trans people? When did that happen? Powerful woman who used to be homeless.
When did that happen?
When you write 8 best-selling books in the freezing winter in a decrepit shoebox flat with no heat while destitute and homeless, I'll watch your utterly annoying...
Comment below what you think this 8th Harry Potter book they're talking about is called, but you're going to have to name it based on what Joanne would call it now if she wrote a book right now. No slurs. Whoever comes up with the funniest one will get 3 months free on my Patreon. So here's the thing, the kicker. That's not what happened. There were no chapters scrawled only on napkins. She was not living in a shoebox without heat. In fact, she outright implied only a stupid person wouldn't have heat in the winter. And Joanne did not write Harry Potter while homeless. She was not born into rags before working her way up to riches. Homegirl, like, had a couple of financially precarious years. The kind of years that many poor people would look at and say, that's better than any year I've ever had. But despite that, the deceptive narrative...
Yeah, but like, what are the difference in circumstances? How many of these poor people have like 3 kids? Like, and that's to say nothing of, well, different people deal with different thresholds of like poverty. That's just kind of how it is. Like, treating this like this. Oh, well, she wasn't as poor as some people. Well, I mean, she had like kids and stuff. She might not have been able to handle the same level of poverty as other people, like myself, for example. I don't have kids. So part of that means that I can live off like nothing, almost. So I probably am poorer than J.K. Rowling has ever been, quite honestly. And I've never been homeless either. But I don't have the same needs. I haven't had the same experiences.
Narrative continues, and despite that, she recently seems keen to let it continue. She could fully set the record straight to her 12 million followers, but she doesn't. Sometimes even exaggerating the story herself, and I think I know why. And goddamn, are we ever—
Sometimes exaggerating the story herself shows absolutely nothing, but okay. Does she have to inform everyone that she was never homeless? Has no one ever said something wrong about you before? Although, to be fair, if you're part of the identify crowd, you probably can't stand anyone saying anything that isn't 100% accurate to you, so I don't know. Or 100% accurate to what you think of yourself. So I don't know. Does she have to offer the world a explanation for some of her rabid fans? I don't think so. What does this person think about, like, people who fucking watch Hassan? Some of those people are nuts. And say all kinds of crazy things that are not true. But that's just kind of how fan groups are.
We're going to get into that in a few minutes. But this is your backstory as to why I was annoyed enough to learn how to read and then force myself to read several books that called themselves biographies, read her dusty old blog, and why I spent days searching for articles that seem to have vanished from the internet in recent years. I went as far as asking people in other countries to go find copies of these articles in their libraries. And they did.
See, the problem here is he hasn't really made much of a case that she's going around saying she was, like, destitute and homeless and stuff.
But truly, my biggest sacrifice for all of you was sitting through multiple watches of one of the worst films ever made. And when I tell you it's bad, I mean it's legitimately mind-bogglingly bad. Magic Beyond Words, the J.K. Rowling story, is a Lifetime original movie and a very unauthorized biography of J.K. Rowling's life.
Yeah, see, you sound biased. I don't trust anything you say. Oh, this is the worst thing you've ever seen. Yeah, it sounds like something you'd say, doesn't it?
From her time as an irksome little girl up until when she first published Harry Potter and the—
Why is J.K. Rowling responsible for a bunch of other random people with free will? Fuck knows. Because this person doesn't like her, so, I don't know. He's made no real case. Like, she doesn't go around saying she's homeless. She just doesn't correct people often enough. Like, oh, wow, amazing, amazing, wow. Does anyone go around saying that you still have hair? Do you have to, like, correct every single one of those people? Looks AI generated. Yeah, like, something about the background is a bit uncanny. Apparently this guy did Katie Montgomery's background, and Katie Montgomery's background is weird.
Philosopher Sorcerer's Stones. It's based on quotes from interviews, Joanne's blog, her writing for papers, and several books that were also unauthorized biographies, which are the books I read. She seems to really want people to hold a specific set of alternative facts in their heads when they think of her, and we're going to dispel some of those notions.
How would you know she wants that? Because she's not correct. Does she see every person that talks about her being homeless?
Today, we're going to start.
Like, why do we, oh, well, because of this, it means you must want this particular thing. Like, what is the point? What kind of analysis is that? You're just making things up. Like, why not stick to the facts? Why not point out a thing that you see a problem with her fans? And why that's wrong? Instead of, like, implying her motives, which you know nothing about. This is someone you've never spoken to. And have a clear impetus as to why you might lie about them. So saying stuff like this just makes you untrustworthy to me.
Start with the film, and then address the untruths about her rise to fame as they crop up, so we can have a little fun while we discuss one of the most successful manipulations of someone's public image in the history of people who wrote books about wizards named Harry Potter. I'll be using clips from the film as a visual aid to illustrate this narrative, but also because they're so bad, which is so funny. I'm Caelen Conrad, your new fave British children's...
Oh, how are you complaining about her fans exaggerating when this is how you talk about her? How are you doing this? How is this real? Like, oh man. Someone needs to tell bitchy gay people that they're not funny just because they're bitchy and gay. Seriously. This is painful.
No, that's not right. Your new fave British cigarette. And this is the critically reviewed biopic that critics and reviews are calling unauthorized. So get cozy on the couch like JD Vance and let's hit play on the movie you'll wish it just killed you in 7 days instead of leaving you alive to suffer. Are you ready? No, you're not. Let's start anyway.
Didn't even write all of this himself. Okay.
We are dropped off into the life of relatable author Joanne Rowling inside a limo outside a red carpet event with masses of people cheering and declaring, "Potter for Prime Minister!" which seems like a perfectly reasonable thing to scream about a fictional child who can't even find his way out of a maze without getting Edward Cullen killed. Also, RuPaul's Drag Race alum Chad Michaels is here. God, she's old.
PS1 Tomb Raider baddie.
A limo pulls up, and who should be in it but Australian actress Poppy Montgomery, posing as a homeless mother of 12 herself. my god, I don't think I can do this. I need to tell you something. You're not going to believe me, but I need you to look it up for yourself. The actress's name, according to Wikipedia, is Poppy Petal Emma Elizabeth Devereaux Donahue. You can tell it's not J.K. Rowling and that it's Poppy by the way she's wearing a poppy. Just like you can always distinguish Avril Lavigne from the clone that replaced her, Melissa, by the way she doesn't even look like she did when she was 15 anymore. These are the same people. Really? I diff to bigger.
See what I mean? Just because you're bitchy and gay, that doesn't make you funny.
Also, you can tell it's Poppy and not Joanne because she's on Twitter ranting about how women color men. It's a dead giveaway. Fake Joanne is expressing herself.
Well, Caelen Conrad went bald. There's a whole 20-minute video about why he went bald. I don't know why we need a hair update like this. But then, if you don't tell everyone that you're bald, some of your fans might go around saying you still have hair. And that would mean that you have some kind of weird investment in telling the world things about you that are not true, apparently, according to this guy's own standards for J.K. Rowling. So I don't know. I don't know.
Doubt and anxieties to her weird little husband, and he reassures her that she's meant to be here and asks what kind of man wouldn't support his wife, which
to me kind of looks like, you know, when you make like a Saints Row character and it starts off like bald with like generic features. It kind of looks a bit like that to me, and the lighting is kind of not helping. It's a little bit too harsh.
In my IMO, actually seems like a really insensitive thing to say to her, considering her previous marriage, so cancelled. I will point out now that most of the embellished narrative about her life takes place after she leaves Portugal, but we have to start at the beginning for you to get the full picture on why rags to riches is about as accurate as that map of the flat earth where they removed Australia because they couldn't fit in all the continents. Before getting out of the limo, she sees a little girl dressed up as a witch, probably because she loved the worst witch, and it triggers a flashback sequence, which kicks off the film's attempt to push every aspect of the Harry Potter cinematic universe into Joanne's personal backstory. Let's watch. We're pulled through time into Joanne's childhood, where she and her sister are playing witches. What a real inconvenient memory. Although, to be totally TBF, I used to play witch too. Although at the time, I referred to that as being Wiccan. When I was a kid, we didn't have Harry Potter. We only had Teen Witch by Silver Ravenwolf, and we had to hide it from our moms because of the Satanic Panic, or as we called it in Canada.
Oh no, I think this guy's probably fine with women being successful, just not having ideals that are anti-his in any way.
Le panique satanique. Approaching baby Joanne is a boy who the credits tell me is also portrayed by Poppy Montgomery. Joanne tries to scare the boy with a story about a witch in the woods named Brian Furcus that will put a curse on you by writing your name backwards.
She stole gold and gold, and they tried to punish her. So, she moved into the Forest of Dean 100 years ago.
She takes the boy into the woods where no one can hear him scream, and the boy struggles to say the words of some spell she just made up.
What do I have to say? Abracadabra septimus.
I hope it's not real Latin, and Joanne's childhood self didn't just summon a demon in my apartment. I just got rid of the last one she sent me.
This is on 2 speed, and it's still taking forever. What was your actual point? The problem is you're showing all of this, but what you showed before this was like nothing. It's just like fans over egging the pudding about J.K. Rowling's life. Like, so we've got to go through the whole fucking movie that isn't even potentially all that accurate because it's a movie.
And then the cringe begins. I wish I didn't have to tell you this, but she, like Hermione, the character people think Joanne based herself on, tells him he isn't doing the spell properly. He needs to
flick and swish, flick and swish.
Just like in the movies. Can you believe? Joanne's been sitting on that little gag since she was larval. Okay, keep this between us. But there's one thing I do kind of love about this movie, which is that in every single scene, other than like 2 or 3, they accurately portray how arrogant and insufferable Joanne is, right from the start. If these mansplaining emojis were like a person, it would be, oh my god, Joanne-splaining. Oh, and wouldn't you know it?
I mean, who's mansplaining right now?
The boy's mother calls him, and his last name is Potter.
Sorry.
Which is actually accurate. Joanne knew a Potter family when she was younger, and she's admitted the name comes from them. Honestly, I would say to take a drink for every Harry Potter reference that gets shoehorned into Joanne's life at some point in this movie, but I'd probably just end with alcohol poisoning again, which would suck most of all because the nurse at the ER does not seem happy to.
Yeah, this is a movie review disguised as I'm trying to right the wrongs of people saying that J.K. Rowling was homeless. So now we get a movie review. Like, when do we get to the point? When do we get to, like, the point? I don't understand. Like, oh, man. Do I have to watch this whole thing just to understand what this guy is actually trying to say?
See me anymore, which is incredibly rude. Do your job. Yeah, I vomited poop on your shoe, but in my defense, you'd be throwing up too if you just eaten poop. And it's like not like it was human. Relax. We get introduced to Joanne's parents, and this isn't in the film, but Joanne's father was an engineer at a Rolls-Royce plant, and her mother worked as a lab tech in science classes. So not exactly the Little Orphan Annie vibe required for rags to riches. The narrative.
What? Those are like working class jobs. Working in a car factory. A teaching assistant. Teacher's assistants presumably make all. I don't know, man. Like, we had the occasional teacher assistant in, like, schools that I was at. And they were, like, there for a few hours a day and stuff. Largely just standing and observing, because they're probably, like, learning from the teacher as well. This is unfunny as fuck. Yeah, true. Can this guy stay on topic for 1 second? No. This was meant to be about how J.K. Rowling allows her fans to make it sound like her rags to riches story was more than what it actually was. Like, oh my god, hang on, let me just get this bit again. I'll slow down slightly.
I love you, Mary.
So what exactly is his point? I've seen nostalgia critic reviews that get to the point quicker than this, and I actually like Doug Walker.
Oh, fair enough. My partner likes Doug Walker. It's never been my thing. So the point is meant to be, all her fans go around saying she used to be homeless and actually she wasn't. Supposedly she's got this like rags to riches like story which this guy thinks is bullshit. But instead of just explaining it and showing what he means, we're reviewing an entire movie about J.K. Rowling, which, bearing in mind, it's a movie. Who knows what is embellished in this movie? I saw the word poverty. I might have to skip forward at some point soon because it's actually painful. Like, he stops every 2 seconds, every 5 seconds to make the worst joke ever, and then make an even worse joke than that to become the new worst jokes ever. I think it was the jet engine factory rather than the car factory. Well, yeah. I mean, even if it was the car factory, do you think the people working on detailing the cars and stuff like that, were they paid an awful lot? Listen, I don't know about J.K. Rowling's parents, but a lot of the cars that were made in Britain, back in the day, I mean, J.K. Rowling's parents, they might have been working in the 60s and stuff like that. You're talking about British Leyland and stuff like that. These people were constantly striking, wanting more money. A lot of these plants were in the Midlands, which is where I'm from, so I know about this kind of shit. Yeah, this Red Robbo person, someone mentioned on my channel last time I talked about this. These car factories, they're constantly striking. They're constantly complaining they're not happy with their lot. I don't know where Rolls-Royce was based. I don't know where J.K. Rowling's father was based. But these people that worked in these factories, they were constantly complaining about their lot. And if her mum was a teaching assistant, then yeah, they probably weren't getting a huge amount of money in. I'm sorry. Does he think that because it was Rolls-Royce, they were all paid paid in fucking wheelbarrows? Is not the case.
Man's life at some point in this movie, but I'd probably just end up with alcohol poisoning again, which would suck most of all because the nurse at the ER does not seem happy to see me anymore, which is incredibly rude. Do your job. Yeah, I vomited poop on your shoe, but in my defense, you'd be throwing up too if you just eaten poop. And it's not like it was human. Relax. We get introduced to Joanne's parents, and this isn't in the film, but Joanne's father was an engineer at a Rolls-Royce plant, and her mother worked as a lab tech in science classes. So not exactly the little orphan.
Rolls-Royce is in Derby. I mean, that's not far away from Birmingham. So I don't know if there was many. I mean, I can check, I guess. Oh, there was one in 1943. How old's J.K. Rowling? Was her father working at Rolls-Royce in the 40s? I don't know. But yeah, fair amount of this kind of stuff. Oh, this is one in Glasgow. So it wouldn't have been the same one. But you see what I'm saying? That whole area, these people that work in these factories back in those times, they were striking a hell of a lot. They were not happy a lot of the time. A lot of that shit happened around where I grew up. After my time, obviously. Before my time, should I say. But that would potentially make J.K. Rowling's father someone who was working at these places at the time, when there was a lot of strikes in a lot of these different factories. What movie is he talking about? I don't remember what it was called now. A movie about J.K. Rowling that came out quite a while ago.
Annie vibe required for rags to riches. The narrative about Joanne...
And by the way, I have no idea whether this person... I have trouble believing that this person disliked this movie that much before J.K. Rowling started talking about trans stuff. You know what I mean? Wonder what this guy's parents did for work. Fuck knows. I don't know if we're talking parents or parent singular, because this is fatherless behavior, quite frankly. Every time you change tabs away from caelen, I feel relief. Me too, trust me. Jesus fucking Christ. I'm not going to get through all this. I'm going to have to skip some of this.
Starts here. A young girl growing up in the countryside, yearning to be a writer as she played in the woods that would inspire the spooky woods central to many of the Harry Potter plots. Joanne herself refers to it as growing up in a small village, but it's often said or implied that this was a modest upbringing. But modest feels inaccurate. Yes, it's modest compared to the literal castle she lives in now, but when Joanne was 9, her family purchased the historic church cottage in Tutsil to live in.
When she was 9, back when these properties really didn't cost all that much. Does this guy know anyone that's above the age of about 40? Yeah, they probably could afford this on a car factory wage and a teaching assistant wage, because houses used to cost an awful lot less, caelen, than they do now. It's the same in your country. You've probably complained about it. You've probably complained about how hard it is to buy a house now. I agree, because they're so much more than they used to be. Holy shit. Even in the 90s. My dad did okay. He had some pretty decent jobs and stuff. My parents were able to afford, homes and stuff. They could buy places that we'd live in. Because houses used to cost less, believe it or not. So this might look very lavish now, and this is probably worth a fair amount of money now. But it wasn't the same in those days. Jesus.
As a home. This house would be $12 million in the cheapest part of Toronto. So the rags, not exactly as a home. This house would be $12 million in the cheapest part of Toronto.
Yeah, probably now. Oh my God, I'm going to lose my shit. How fucking dumb is this guy? Yeah, probably in Toronto, a house like that is probably worth shit tons now. For all I know, maybe Toronto prices are actually higher than rural England prices. It wouldn't surprise me if that was the case, because the cities tend to get more expensive. If you actually go towards London, the prices just start exponentially rising. And like, I can't remember which area this was in. But like, this would cost... Yeah, now. Oh my God. Someone posted on Reddit asking for their favorite LGBT YouTubers. Someone commented the married to, and it was downvoted. Nice. I hope I get downvoted on Reddit. You people are all degenerates. That's a joke.
So the rags, not a
Matt Bernstein clone. The sad part is, I wonder if it's actually not the other way round. Toronto is also one of the most expensive cities to live in, so I don't know how it's a good point. Yeah, that's what I was thinking. Like, yeah, it's going to cost more if you move it to Toronto. It's also going to cost more now than it cost when J.K. Rowling was 9. J.K. Rowling is a lot older than I am. When I was 9, my parents were still able to buy houses. One of the houses was probably on, like, comparable to this. Yeah, if you took this house and put it near London, it'd be worth shit tons. Just like if you put it near Toronto, probably would be worth shit tons. But it's rural England, and it's like, what, the 60s or something? How old is J.K. Rowling? When was J.K. Rowling 9? So she was born in 65, so 1974. So where's 1974? Like 8 grand something. 8 grand something. Fuck me, dude. How stupid. Like, why does this guy talk about stuff like this? Just leave this part out. This is ridiculous. The only reason he can get away with this stuff is because people just watch this because they want to watch something that's hating on J.K. Rowling and making stupid jokes constantly. That's just what they want to watch. But what they don't realize is how ignorant this guy is. I paid $32,000 for a 3-bedroom house in 96. Yeah. I mean, in the 90s, my parents were like buying houses. Like, they did okay. We weren't like fucking rich. Like, oh, fuck me, man. This is the dumbest point I've heard in time. This guy at the renter is so privileged. He doesn't know the price of anything. He's never had to worry about it. Yeah, quite possibly.
Sold to live in as a home. This house would be $12 million in the cheapest part of Toronto. So the rags, not exactly raggedy. And Joanne's I just got it.
Yeah, that's a terrible point, bro.
Adding a Joe to your own name for your daughter is amazing. This is my baby.
What would it have cost in Toronto in 1976? You know what I mean? 1974, whichever.
Caelen. The next day is Joanne's first day at school, and it's based on a story Joanne herself has told. The teacher passes around a test for the kids to take.
Okay, I'm more interested in like when she was an adult, because people talk about homeless single mother. Like her upbringing, I truly don't care. I truly don't care. She sounded like she had a fairly normal upbringing. Like, not rich, not poor, fine.
Dualism. Joanne starts up her complaining again, and her mom just can't handle listening to her yap anymore, so she faints and crumbles to the ground. Even though the deep
came charged to her father, who ran away from home to fight in the Spanish Civil War, taking with her a camera that she had charged to her father's account. I wish I'd had the nerve to do something like that.
I too wish I'd had the nerve to steal a camera. I had to buy my own like a dirty chump, and it just broke. If you want to contribute to me getting a new camera.
I love the way she never...
Okay, instead, check the links in my description. Buy my music, super chat, something like that. I don't know. Please do not give this person money. Never. This person doesn't need your money. They're going to spend it on fucking tat that sits behind them anyway, so...
Never outgrew some of her adolescent traits, remaining true to her politics. She was a self-taught socialist throughout her life. I think I've read everything she wrote. I even called my daughter Jessica...
Do you think he's going to go after the socialist thing? Because like J.K. Rowling like leans left. These people can call her a rightoid. I don't know if this guy has personally. But people can call them like right-wing, like all they want and stuff.
Rolling Orantes after her.
Oh my god, not even her daughter's name was original. Although if I was one of the Rolling...
Really, bro? Not even her daughter's name is original? Most people name their kids after like relatives and stuff. What point is... Every time I click to some random place, It's some utterly pea-brain fucking point that nobody with half a brain would make. But someone like this gets away with it because everyone that watches is a fucking sycophant. Except for me, I guess. And this is like, it's set to newest as well. Like the most likely time they're going to have to get people that know what they're talking about. Like, his camera and his monitor broke. Just buy new ones, bro. You get like decent views for your size. You make a decent amount of money. How much Patreon bucks do you get? Patreon and Ko-fi, by the way. We need both. Oh, and by the way, Ember Green, Katie Montgomery does a voice in this video. Katie Montgomery. Why are we still propping up this fucking loser? She sucks. Oh, man. Hey, look at this. Look at this. So J.K. Rowling she kind of like fudges her past, yeah? So she kind of pretends that she was poorer than she was. This guy doesn't let you see how many, well, you see how many people are paid members. You don't see how much money he makes. You don't see what the tiers are, so you can't work out how much money he makes. But like 913 paid members, if that was £1 each per member, that's £913 a month. That's a decent amount of money. Easily afford. Just by that alone. We're not talking about YouTube memberships. We're not talking about Ko-fi. We're not talking about donations of any kind. Just Patreon. You could easily fucking afford like a camera and a monitor. So why are you grifting your audience for stuff that you can afford? What's all this shit? This looks ivory tower as to me. Like, I don't know, bro.
Kids, I'd be glad I wasn't named like infant human female or like Softia Fontanelle or something. I love how Joe is like, I like that she never outgrew her childish traits, like being a socialist or having consistent principles. Unfortunately for me, I had to grow up, which means becoming a fascist billionaire. Rowling didn't bother trying to be like her.
There it is, calling her a fascist. Like, just throw these words around like nothing.
Socialist hero in like actual practice, who for example was so against displays of wealth that she had a $500.
Yeah, well, $2 Canadian could be the bottom tier. And by the way, the tiers go up. So more likely he's getting at least like $1,500 a month, if not more. Why the fuck does he need to beg his audience for Ko-fi bucks? Like, fucking hell.
Her funeral. Joanne just started smoking at the bus stop by school or whatever.
Like, listen, if I was getting £1,500 a month, I'd be like the luckiest person alive, frankly. And I would feel like the biggest jerk. I already hate asking for money and stuff like that. Can you imagine asking for money for people for stuff that got broken when you make so much money just from Patreon alone? Okay, so he doesn't get YouTube memberships. Maybe he's not even fucking monetized. Jesus Christ. Bottom tier is 550 AU. So what about £3? So he's probably getting at least $2,000 a month. Like, fuck me. These are the anti-capitalists, by the way. These are the anti-capitalists. Just so we're clear. Holy shit. It's disgusting. It's actually quite gross. You're earning money for doing like fuck all. How many videos do you put up? How many videos does he put up every month? I've never, like, this is the most privileged, not even every month. Like, until 2 months ago, like 3 months ago, and then 1 month ago, and then now. You do almost nothing for the money that you get given. And there's not enough. You're still grifting on your audience. You're still asking for your audience for bucks because something got broken. Are you not given enough? You probably earn more than most of the people that give money to you. Jesus Christ.
Actually became everything Jessica Mitford was fighting against. And Jessica Mitford likely would have fucking hated her. Anyway, Joanne and the redhead jumped.
Yeah, just every tiny opportunity to like put the boot in. This is like pathetic. This is like child shit. Okay, school. When do we get to the point? When was like the hard times? That's where I'm interested.
This time in her life, describe her working at Amnesty International like this.
All I ever liked about working in offices was being able to type up stories on the computer when no one was looking. I was never paying much attention in meetings because I was usually scribbling bits of my latest story.
It's contractual boundaries for them to work. And sycophantic followers because they support human rights that she doesn't. Which is going, and she says that without being too kind with the story, she can't really write anything, can she, stupid? Her
Like, we're basing this on a movie, so I don't even know how true any of this is. There's poverty there. Is that where it kind of... the audience is retarded? Yes, true. Nick has 23 to 26k Patreon. Can you believe it? Yes, true, true. I can very much believe that. I mean, ContraPoint's got massive. Like, they don't even upload on YouTube anymore. They just upload on Patreon. So, like, all their shit is behind a paywall now. And when you think about it that way, the whole Blair versus ContraPoint's rivalry, Blair won easily.
So much writing done, which we've seen just so exactly none of. Her sister's like, well, that's great, but anyway, I have to tell you something. And Joanna's like, oh no, what's wrong with Dad? Her sister explains that she comes home drunk and gets very angry when she refuses his advances. She accuses him of cheating on her, and he asks if her stupid little friends have been telling her that, as if he didn't propose to her after she literally caught him trying to cheat. He grabs the Harry Potter box and throws it against the door. She's like, I can put up with a lot of shit, George, but throwing my baby, Harry Potter, against the wall, that's where I draw the line. I don't love you, and I want to take my baby.
We're making, like, weird light of what was, like, actually a abusive situation, no? But then what am I expecting? This guy, like, spent an hour or two taking the piss out of, like, Magdalene Burns for dying, so... fucking hell. Is this like a title? Do we get to, like, poverty?
Commenting again, we get into the meat, the potatoes, the other things Americans eat with every meal. We are at the most sensationalized period in her life.
Okay, we're gonna get to the point, hopefully, which is that some of her fans say she was homeless when she wasn't, which already I don't care about, because fans say the darndest things, you know?
Poverty. So Joanne moves back to Edinburgh to live with her sister, and the next we see she/her, she's lurking around the social assistance office. The officer she has a meeting with has obviously been doing this job far too long and just wants to get down to the dirty details to see how much Joanne is entitled to. But Joanne doesn't think she should have to supply any, like, details about her current situation. She wants the cash, but doesn't want to explain why. Furthermore, she wants housing benefits.
Yeah, have you never dealt with, like, benefit systems? It's not fun. I'm doing that right now. It's not fun. Who's this bald-headed bit? This is Caelen Conrad. I watched this guy make fun of Magdalene Burns because she died of cancer, or whatever it was. And now he's trying to prove that J.K. Rowling wasn't homeless, even though J.K. Rowling herself doesn't go around saying she was homeless. Ugh. Okay, ContraPoints has never said she was a communist. I'm pretty sure she's always said she was a capitalist. Listen, I'm well versed in ContraPoints. I used to be a massive fan. I agree with most of the stuff she says anymore, but she wasn't a communist. Is there a Discord? Yeah, it should be linked. Hope you're good. Bellatit HD. Yeah, it should be linked, and I think it's correct today, which is unusual, probably. I don't know. I hope you're good. This guy's Canadian. Yeah, he's Canadian. Have you not heard all the about and all that kind of stuff?
Benefits, but doesn't want to be declared as homeless. Oh no, that would be very low class, wouldn't it?
Like, does he understand anything to do with, like, the British, like, benefit system? I don't even know what it was like at these times, because I'm much younger than J.K. Rowling is. J.K. Rowling is, like, the same age as my mum. Like, very, very slightly older, I think. I don't know what it was like claiming benefits. I know what it's like now. It's a pain in the fucking arse. And you have to get ready to experience the feeling where it feels like no one gives a fuck. And if you need help for any problems... I know it's okay, I just, you know... it's best to be real, you know? Yeah. Like, these systems, they treat you like you don't fucking matter. They treat you like they're looking for any reason to, like, send you out on your way. Fuck you, no. You don't need money to survive. No one does. She was like, I don't know, somewhat capital. I don't know, watch some of her videos. Like, I've watched loads of them. Dealing with a DWP can be hell. Exactly. Like, has this guy ever applied for benefits? Has he ever had to deal with that kind of shit? I wonder. And it's weird to snark on this kind of thing. Because this is what you deal with when you're, like, bottom of the barrel in, like, the UK. You end up meeting people like this and having to deal with people like this. Why would you snark at that when you're an anti-capitalist? Don't you think that everyone should be getting this? Don't you agree with, like, UBI and shit like that? Instead of having to beg your way into getting, like, table scraps? Because that's the reality of it. And he doesn't know fuck all. I feel like I'm being a better leftist than this fucking person. And I'm not even a leftist. I'm a liberal at best, you know?
At the most sensationalized period in her life. Poverty. So Joanne moves back to Edinburgh to live with her sister, and the next we see she/her, she's lurking around the social assistance office. The officer she has a meeting with has obviously been doing this job far too long and just wants to get down to the dirty details to see how much Joanne is entitled to. But Joanne doesn't think she should have to supply any, like, details about her current situation. She wants the cash, but doesn't want to explain why. Furthermore, she wants housing benefits, but doesn't want to be declared as homeless. Oh no, that would be very low class, wouldn't it?
Wasn't she also in, like, an abusive relationship? Like someone keep quiet about... I don't know, man. This is like... I don't know, this person comes across like they have no empathy to speak of, ever. And don't understand, like, hardship. I mean, of course they don't understand hardship. They get ridiculous amounts of money on Patreon every month. And then still beg their community. Like, where was it? My camera recently broke. If you want to help me replace them. You can afford to replace those fucking things yourself, bro. You can afford that shit. You get given money for the easiest job in the world. You make a video once a month. Like, fuck me. It's never enough, is it? It's never enough. If I had this person's life, I don't think I'd ever complain about a single thing ever again. Much less whether J.K. Rowling doesn't tell her fans often enough that she's not homeless.
But I see you're also requesting housing benefits. How long have you been homeless? Oh, we're not homeless. We've been saying my sister and her husband.
Oh yes, I need housing benefits, but I have a place to live, and I need those right now.
Yeah, people are proud. People don't want to say that they're home. Like, this guy doesn't understand poverty whatsoever, and he's a massive fucking leftist. I don't understand it. You don't understand any of this shit. You don't know what it's like. You don't have kids. You don't seem like you've wanted for much. Like, maybe if I look in the past or something, maybe I'd be wrong about that. If that's the case, then you seem to have forgotten a lot of it. He doesn't come across as funny as me. He comes across as nasty and mean. Yep, I agree. But then, I don't know. I've seen this person talk about Magdalene Burns. Like, was this person, like, living hand to mouth while they were making all this kind of shit? I have a hard time believing all this. I mean, they were straight in with the... I don't know if this is if there's older stuff that's been deleted. I don't know if this is a additional channel to a previous channel or whatever. But, like... I don't know. It looks pretty Ivory Tower even, like, here, like 2 years ago. Also, that headband looks ridiculous. You look like when your daughter is still growing her hair out because she's like 3. So you keep putting like headbands and stuff on her to make sure people know she's a girl. That's what it looks like when people like that wear those kind of things. Like all these flashy graphics. I don't know, man. I'm just trying to see what the backgrounds are looking like. But then I don't know if they always green screen. Like, well, I know maybe all of this is like green screened. Like this, I hope so, because this like tacky like brick wallpaper, if that's what it is disgusting. You're like, if this is all real, your internal decorating is shite. You're a gay man. You're supposed to be about that shit, you're not.
Now, please, and no further questions, thank you. Personally, I think people are entitled to housing and shouldn't mean to divulge that they were abused to get it. But the way they portray her here is that she's applying for specific benefits based on hardships, with them being weirded out when they're like, can you describe these hardships? Currently, she's living in a luxury...
What a weird read on that. Someone doesn't want to say they're homeless. Like, that's fair enough, isn't it? They don't want the stolen valor. They don't want to pretend that they're something they're not. I don't fucking know. I have some media literacy. I assume the scene, just in the small crip, was to show the worker as being unreasonably invasive to JKR. Well, the thing is, that's what a lot of these things are like. Like, they'll ask all these kind of questions about stuff that you probably don't want to talk about, and you kind of have to, I guess, because you're applying for benefits. But it's not easy. And I don't think this person understands any of this kind of stuff. And it's so weird, like, the tone doesn't change coming from this person when we seem to be talking about, like, abusive situations. Or, like, a person actually struggling with an aspect of poverty, like the benefits system, which sucks to have to deal with. I'm sorry. You don't know that. It's so gross. I don't know how people can watch this shit. I genuinely don't.
4-bedroom flat with her sister and brother-in-law, who has not asked her to leave, as far as I know, so they obviously aren't going to give her a housing allowance. I wonder how many actually homeless people would have scoffed at staying in a place like this and referring to that period as being as poor as you can be without being homeless. By the way, that home sold a few years...
Mate, staying in like your sister's like room is not the most dignified thing in the world.
back, and this was the description of it.
Lying a stone's throw from the meadows within a tenement once...
With a housing allowance. I wonder how many actually homeless people would have scoffed at staying in a place for specific benefit. Personally, I think people are entitled to housing and shouldn't mean to divulge that they were abused to get it, but...
Yeah, like... Well, I think this, but at the same time, I have to find a way of putting the boot in because it's J.K. Rowling. If this was about someone else, you'd be sympathizing with her, I bet.
The way they portray her here is that she's applying for specific benefits based on hardships, with them being weirded out when they're like, can you describe these hardships? Currently, she's living in a...
Yeah, invasive.
Luxury 4-bedroom flat with her sister and brother-in-law, who has not asked her to leave, as far as I know.
Luxury 3-4 bedroom. Okay. You're still like sofa surfing. You're still like one up from sofa surfing. I've crashed out on my ass many times. I've had to end up living like with the family. like living in a room in a house. Like, I don't know. I don't think this person is wanted for much in their life.
So they obviously aren't going to give her a housing allowance. I wonder how many actually homeless people would have...
Yeah, escaping an abusive relationship, and like he's whining that... I don't even know. What are you talking about?
Scoffed at staying in a place like this and referring to that period as being as poor as you can be without being homeless. By the way, that home sold a few years back, and this was the description of it.
Lying a stone's throw from the meadows within a tenement once occupied by...
We don't know how her life was then. She might have been in an okay place. And also, this is not what it looked like then, presumably. I don't know many bathrooms that looked like this in the fucking 80s or whatever it was. You've got Katie Montgomery. I need to skip this. Katie Montgomery's voice annoys me. This house has this and this and this in it, and I'm Katie Montgomery. Just shut up, mate. Shut up. Forever, please. And you.
Not enough to house and feed and raise an infant, which again, is fucked up. Nobody should have to live like that. Down with England? Scotland? Where's Marchmont? In interviews and writings, Joanne talks about her time getting government assistance.
Many of the capital's outstanding shopping, recreational and cultural amenities are located within easy walking distance of this enviable dwelling in desirable Marchmont.
Damn, can I live there? In the end, Joanne is awarded £69 a week for her trouble, which is certainly not enough to house and feed and raise an infant, which again, is fucked up. Nobody should have to live like that. Down with...
See this like fake balance. If this was anyone else, you'd be like, you're still putting the boot in at every opportunity and pointing out these tiny little flaws. That might not have even been what the situation's like anyway. If this was about someone else, your tune would be completely different. It shows what an ideologue this person is.
England? Scotland? Where's Marchmont? In interviews and writings, Joanne talks about her time getting government assistance as if it was disgraceful.
Yeah, government should just give everyone lots of money. I'm sure that's what you think. Meanwhile, our NHS is like at the point of collapsing. Houses get renovated. Yep, that is true as well, yeah.
And beneath her to be treated this way.
I felt as though there was an enormous neon arrow pointing at my head. I got out my benefit book only when I reached the counter and
Yeah, this is how people feel. This is just normal. How are we going to put the boot in on this? Whilst pretending that we're leftists by, well, actually, I don't think she should have dealt with that, but still, I'm gonna complain at every opportunity because this is about J.K. Rowling.
Over quickly, hoping nobody would notice what it was. I was living on virtually nothing. Income support then was just under $70 a week all in. The first time I ever had to go into a post office and pick up my benefit, I felt everyone knew why I was there. It was as if I was in a clinic for some horrible illness.
Damn. She really is disgusted by the idea of people thinking she was poor in any way.
Mate, it's not about that. There's like a stigma. I want to pull this card, but caelen has so much upper middle class male privilege, never had to beg for help in the bottom. Yeah, I get the same impression. This person seems incredibly privileged. Like, this attitude, this is how people feel. There's like a stigma about being unemployed. Oh, you're just a layabout, just taking money from everyone else. Oh, those are my tax monies that you're using to buy fags and shit like that. There's so much stigma around this kind of stuff. And obviously this fucking idiot doesn't understand that. Obviously this fucking idiot seems to have, getting called a scrounger, yeah. There was this guy that worked at one of the pubs that I worked at when I was like 26 or something. I first started my transition. I worked in like Wetherspoons pubs. People called me all name under the sun. It was fucking great. There was a guy that worked there. He looked like someone who was either homeless or like, you know, on benefits and stuff. And he told me once about like, he went to the bank or something and someone in front of him was like looking at him like, oh, I bet this guy's in there to cash in his dole check. And it's like, this guy works like 60 hours a week in like a kitchen. You know what I mean? There's so much of a stigma around collecting benefits. Probably not just in the UK, but in general. People talk about, oh, my tax dollars. Oh, well, if you want to be able to survive, go and get a job. As if it's just that simple. Just click your fingers and get a fucking job. You know what I mean? There's so much stigma around this. It's not about pretending not to be poor. People do see you. Yeah, we had like Benefits Street, like stuff like that. The Daily Mail, completely. There's so much stigma around this shit. And people do feel ashamed. And I wonder if this was about someone else other than J.K. Rowling, would this person be sympathizing? This is not about being ashamed to be poor. Oh, I can't have people thinking that I'm poor. No, it's people looking at you and seeing a scrounger. Because that's what the stigma is. Maybe it was even worse back in those days. I don't know. I probably wasn't alive when this was happening. This dipshit definitely wasn't alive when this was happening. Because I'm fairly sure this person is younger than me. This guy has the most bad faith interpretation of every aspect of JK. Yeah, exactly. Like, it's so easy to make one of these, like, ideologue fucking videos. All you have to do, just pick a subject that your queer friends are going to agree with you on. And then just say the worst thing you possibly can about every single thing about that person. Like, you see something like this, find a way of reacting to it cynically, and people will eat it up. It's so cooked. This is like the worst thing I've ever seen in my life. Wonder if this guy likes Asani. Yeah, probably. Probably. He likes to crowbar in, like, Palestine to his videos. I wonder if there's any of that here. There might not be, actually. I guess this is an important topic, isn't it? So, like, is this whole thing like the movie? Like, this is still movie clips. That's still from the movie. It's just a movie review aimed at proving a point that I already understand and basically agree with. That being, some of J.K. Rowling's fans overestimate how poor she was. Jesus Christ. The main stigma is once you go on benefits, you never go off of them. Yeah, people assume that you're work shy. People assume that you're a scrounger. People resent you because they're paying taxes and a very, very tiny percentage of that tax is going towards you personally. As if we think that people should just starve on the street if they can't find work. There's so much stigma around this shit, and I can't believe this dipshit. Calling himself a leftist. Oh, well, I don't think people should be poor, but you don't understand how people treat you when you're on benefits because you don't actually understand the poor experience. Disgusting. It's like fake leftism once again.
It was as if I was in a clinic for some horrible illness.
Damn. She really is disgusted by the idea of people thinking she was poor in any way. Oh my god, it was so embarrassing. People knowing you're poor is almost as embarrassing as people knowing you're diseased. You know, being poor is like being...
Yeah, what an absolutely retarded read of this. It's not about that. It's about the stigma of being on benefits. You wouldn't understand.
Diseased. And being diseased is shameful. I've always said this. When a government worker came over to bring some toys for her daughter, a teddy bear, a plastic house, Joanne turned her nose up at them. Instead of donating them to a family that, wouldn't hate them, she apparently put them in a black garbage bag and left them on the side of the road, according to biographer Sean Smith. I had to dig to get this article. It is mentioned and referenced several places, but it is not available online. Eventually, I had to get somebody to go to the library in another continent and pull it up for me, because I could not believe how ugly this made her sound, and I wanted the actual source.
Throwing some stuff away.
I legitimately thought that they were exaggerating. But I was wrong. There are new lows. You know what's underneath rock bottom? This.
Oh my god, he has to keep going. Just show the fucking thing, bro.
The only time I got really upset was when she came around and brought Jessica some second-hand toys. I can still see them. A very grubby old teddy bear, a little plastic house without the plastic people who should have been living in it, and a pull-along telephone.
Yeah, she didn't think that her kid would want them. Would any kid want them? I don't know. Who fucking cares about this? This is bigged up as like, oh, this is the worst thing ever. This is like this makes her look so bad, you guys. Like, oh, man. I thought you were judging the people for not looking poor. This is dire. This is actually dire. Like, okay, she threw some stuff out.
If I felt humiliated before, it was nothing to how I felt.
And like, oh, well, here you go. You can have someone's old fucking shit that you don't want. Like, I don't know, man. This is what makes her look bad. This guy doesn't have kids. He looks like a gay Billy Corgan. I thought Billy Corgan was the gay Billy Corgan, to be honest with you. Like, this guy just doesn't understand people. He doesn't understand poverty. He definitely doesn't understand having children because none of these people have children. Let me just see if there's more to this quote. Yeah, she assumed that her kid wouldn't want that stuff. Is it what I do? Probably not. I don't know. I probably wouldn't turn down free stuff myself. Does that make her a bad person? And the way he bigs this kind of stuff up, as if any of that really matters an inch. Like, what is this shit? What's this got to do with J.K. Rowling? Is Billy Corgan gay? I don't know. He looks gay. I don't know very much about him. Oh, her flat had heating. Her flat had heating. Unheated, mouse-infected flat. Okay, so there's a bit of a discrepancy. One time it's heated, the next time it's unheated. Wow. Yeah, I'm listening on mute. I cannot. I'm watching on mute. Sorry, I cannot with this guy's voice anymore. I cannot with the ridiculous dumb jokes. I cannot with the terrible pacing where we over-explain the fuck out of everything and then show the thing we could have just shown like fucking 10 minutes ago. It didn't write to escape her unheated flat. It had heating. In your own time. In your own time. It is not sped up enough. I mean, she's either talking about two different flats or, yeah, there's a bit of a discrepancy here. Oh no, J.K. Rowling must be the worst person to ever live. Caelen Conrad is shitting on J.K. Rowling for every tiny thing he can possibly find, is what this video is. I should read it out in Katie Montgomery's voice. Eccentric woman dashes into cafes every day, one arm on the buggy, hair everywhere, slings a pile of A4 papers down, orders espresso after espresso and writes madly. At night, back in her grotty bedsit after Jessica falls asleep, she writes a bit more. Without writing, she'd go stark raving mad. I probably sound nothing like her, but I don't care. That's what I hear when I hear Katie Montgomery. Is there anything else worth looking at in this? Yeah, like people mention she's at home, like, she doesn't even say it herself. Could J.K. Rowling go around telling people that she wasn't actually homeless and not to say that about her? She could. But you know what's odd? He was kind of making out that, like, she was like ashamed of being poor and like, oh, I don't want to be seen to be poor. That's disgusting. But yeah, you wanted to go around telling everyone she wasn't homeless. Wouldn't she not want people to think she was homeless if we're being like consistent? It's just so stupid. This is the nothingest argument. This is the nothingest hour plus video. Yeah, some of her fans go around saying insane shit. Wow. Could she do more to dispel this myth? Yes. Does it actually fucking matter though? Not fucking really. Like, holy, like, he gives like citations and everything. Whether it's cited or not is not the problem. Like, listen. We did it. We got to the end. Oh no, what a shame. I have to finish the video now. That was utterly painful. Please never let me watch a Caelen Conrad video again. This person lacks empathy. This person doesn't understand the experience of poor people. Certainly doesn't understand the experience of like benefits. Seems to think that houses cost the same in the 70s as they do now. And that the prices in Toronto are indicative of prices anywhere else, when rural England is just not the same, especially if you're not that near London. You're just not getting the same like crazy values on houses that you probably are near Toronto. Yeah, terrible video. Terrible creator who likes to keep secret, doesn't want you to think, or maybe does want you to think he's poor because he doesn't even show any of the stuff on Patreon, but will ask his followers for money to replace basic equipment that he uses to make one video a month, by the way. Oh, still Caelen Conrad. Listen, there we go. The sad part is he's like kind of still doing okay. Like usually these channels like peaked a long time ago, but this one actually still doing quite well. Well, his shit is terrible, so there you go. You want my Caelen Conrad review? Fuck Caelen Conrad. Disgusting human being. Terrible at his job. Begs his fans for money to replace stuff that he can afford. Doesn't understand anything about anything. Completely fake leftist.